Hello and welcome to the speed build of me building a castle, or rather half a castle. I really wanted to test out the new castle kit and I thought a castle is too big. I don't want to build an entire castle. I have done so many big builds, I didn't feel like it. So I instead decided to not just build a small castle because that's boring. I wanted to build castle ruins that have been renovated in modern times to be used as a home. That's sometimes done, not that often, that they kind of renovate what's left to be lived in and they leave the very broken parts of the castle to be broken and have the ruin aesthetic. And it's really, really cool. And I thought, let's try this in the game. I used half walls to mimic the very fallen apart parts of the home and also used some of the items from the Get Together kit. Because my main goal with this build is to test the viability of the new kit. I am not a fan of super specialized build kits. I, for example, never got the Courtyard Oasis kit because I don't feel like the amount of items that is in a kit is enough to really build with this aesthetic, and the Courtyard Oasis kit didn't really have a lot of synergy with packs, so I didn't feel like I could build an entire build with this kit, and I didn't get it. With the castle kit, I thought the same, just we have a lot of other packs that might have synergy. So I wanted to use the Get Together kit, I wanted to use the Vampire kit, etc. to just mimic a castle where throughout the centuries people have lived in and have built upon and added upon and changed, and then it kind of fell into disrepair, and now in modern times somebody moved in there again. One thing that really disappointed me with the kit, not gonna lie, is that it doesn't really work with round walls. I wanted to build a round tower, but neither of the doors or windows would work on curved walls, and that was kind of a no-go for me. So later I'll change the tower to something not round, unfortunately. What I really loved though was the stone texture for the walls, because it comes in different stages of like cleanliness and you can actually even layer it. So I used a clean one for the bottom story, then I used a half clean, half dirty one, and then a dirty one, and that is way more interesting. I love that. They should do this for all outside wallpapers for like I really love it. I also love the fences we got. There are really cool things in this kit. I just hate that nothing works with the round walls. So this is the point where I just gave up on them and exchanged them for not round walls, which made me a little bit sad. Other than that, the whole decorative stuff, that we can build trenches kind of and everything, that is really cool. I also like that the windows are stackable. I really played around with that. I used the stackability feature on several windows and it really added something to the build. And I think it would have been even more impactful had I built a real big castle and I could have used, 2-story high walls with no floor in between. That's a really cool feature. Other than that, I was impressed by how well the kit played with the aforementioned packs. You could really mix and match. You see me here using some of the Get Together windows with this pack. It works quite charmingly, and throughout this entire build I keep adding things from other packs and it just lends itself very well to that. And yeah, because we have this synergy with the other packs, this kit is a recommend for me for sure. Since this is a modern home in an old ruin, I wanted to mix and match aesthetics, modern and old. That's also kind of an easy way out for me because it's really hard to stay accurate to a historical era with The Sims. Castles have usually been very inconsistent because people have lived there for centuries and changed things and added things. And also by saying this was newly renovated, I could really look at things and say, yeah, this is where somebody would have modernized for sure, or this is where somebody would have tried to be historically accurate as much as they could. And one thing where I wanted to stay relatively historically accurate is that all the main rooms, not the hallways as much, but like the main rooms have fireplaces. That includes the bedroom and the living room and the kitchen, because it's easier. Certain things where I stayed inaccurate was, for example, some wall placements, because I think if you're in a ruin, it's not always just the outside walls that are in disrepair, and sometimes you just have to tear down an inside wall and you make the space your own. Also, these inside walls have notoriously been changed over the years, so who knows? That is very good for me, because The Sims doesn't always play nice with historically accurate shapes. I did try to stay true to the weird and awkward spaces. That is not only because castles have them, but most of all because if you renovate a ruin, you don't get to pick and choose as much what room used to be what. Maybe the main hall is actually completely gone by now and your new entryway is the servants' entryway. Or you have to improvise with, I don't know, a storage room. And that I wanted this vibe to exist in my build. The balance between modern pieces and things that look thrifted or even maybe were part of the estate and the person living here tracked them down, that was really hard for me to achieve. That was probably what I spent the most time on. Because finding this right blend of things is really hard. It can be too much to either side, and then everything that doesn't exactly match stands out like a sore thumb. So you really want to have a balance there. At this point, I also decided this downstairs area is gonna be like the public area for people, not exactly the main living room space. So I wanted to make this banquet style, and I added a piano because I thought, why the heck not? If I live in a castle, I might as well have a grand piano. With the bathrooms, these would have been historically accurate for an era way after the castle was built. Back when the castle was built, they wouldn't have had toilets. But again, usually in castles, people have lived throughout the centuries, and they of course have updated, so having an old style bathroom still made sense to me. I also rearranged the upstairs at some point because I wanted an office and I didn't have a good space for an office. It is a very awkwardly shaped room, but just as I said, that's kind of what I wanted. I was actually a bit upset that the downstairs wasn't weird. It needs to be really weird if you live in a castle ruin specifically. The second floor will contain the real living room, and I wanted this to be a little ornate, have some interest, so I got the idea to have mirrors behind the fireplace to make that seem a little grander than the ones downstairs or in the bedroom. I also picked a leather couch because leather as a material is very timeless, so it's a good thing for marrying the different eras. And then I remembered the globe bar, and of course I had to have the globe bar because the globe bar is just cool, and somebody living in such a space is probably eccentric enough to appreciate it. And I added a few very regal decorations, very old style decorations. I wanted this to feel like somebody lives there who really appreciates the past and loves it, and made this place specifically their own, because I think if you live there, you're a character, you know what I mean? You're not just anyone, you're not into decorating. I also thought they might have tracked down who used to live there. It's usually pretty easy to know who has owned the castle in previous times, and oftentimes you can find actual paintings of them in different places, and I thought they maybe tracked that down and bought them up and hung them here to honor the previous owners. And throughout all I'm building, you can really tell that I'm hugely benefiting from my cop-out that this is a modern home, and you know, collected vintage pieces mixed with modern pieces. If I was to really try and furnish this medieval time specifically, I'd have a much harder time. I don't think that is possible without CC, especially not if you want to be really, really accurate to the year. The bedroom is also the place where I struggled the most with the balance between the modern influences and the not so modern influences, because for the longest time, whatever item I picked would tilt it too far to either side, and I would have to rearrange. It was a really, really tough battle, and it didn't help that for half of the time I forgot that I have to have a fireplace in there, and then had to rearrange once more the moment I was happy with what I had. So it goes. That's when you build without a plan, like me, and make it up as you go, then you forget things that are important. So don't be like me, plan things. Or not, I'm not your mom. This is a rooftop terrace that used to be a real room, but it's in disrepair, the walls aren't there anymore, and the people who renovated it thought, hey, let's make this a balcony instead. I have also a larger, mostly empty rooftop terrace on the next door up that you can reach via a ladder from the outside. And there is basically only a telescope on there, but I really like the idea that some of the spaces were just used to different degrees. Like, it doesn't have to be a room, you don't have to rebuild the walls, you know what I mean? It's a cool large balcony now. We can do that. And I think that's realistic to a degree. The hallway I left mostly stone because that would be, you know, where you tread with muddy shoes maybe, so I thought that was actually even practical, even in modern day times. But you have to have wall rugs then, because this room would have been cold. I also put in a fuck ton of wine shelves and then some benches and something that looked like, you know, collecting berries or whatnot, just to make it appear more regal in that sense. And then I rearranged the bedroom again, because as I said, I struggle a lot with balancing the different eras. I think in the end, though, I struck a balance that I can appreciate and that I can live with. For the garden, I wanted to use the health walls and the items from the different packs to really recreate the scene of ruins, actual ruins, and use this to structure the garden. Because I think if you would use these fallen walls in your garden and you would use it as your garden space, you would actually use it to section it off. So one section is a little romantic garden, the other is an actual gardening patch, then we have an eating space. But also I really wanted to use this so that the space feels much bigger than it is, because the castle used to be huge, it's just a lot of it is gone by now. So I wanted to have the walls kind of stretch out beyond the lot, and I wanted this to feel like there used to be so much of this castle. I also use way different gray tones throughout. That is because I was using different packs and the grays wouldn't match, so I kind of leaned into it. You know, when it's just a little difference, it feels like a mistake. If everything's different, it feels intentional. Just different states of deprecation, I guess. This is the aforementioned gardening patch, and I also had a little patch of wildflowers because I thought maybe this person actually is a beekeeper too and has a little beehive, and then a wildflower patch would be so cool. But also it helps to just sell the idea of there is more beyond those walls. And of course, I had to use all the greenery for the walls, especially on the tower. I really wanted this to be overgrown and cool. And I also added a little bit of green to the rooftop terrace / ruins at the top, so that it really feels like it's been there forever and it's overgrown, and that has just happened over the past decades and hundreds of years or whatnot. And it also creates a little bit of interest because this is fairly gray. I think it helps that the walls aren't all the same color because there is this gradient going on, but still it is very gray. I also added a lot of these stones as pathways as well as around the ruins to just make it seem like there used to be stone floor there. And it's also a bit more whimsical and again creates some interest. And then I was about done, so we can tour the place. This is the outside of our castle. I think it really looks like a ruin. I'm happy I achieved that. With a little different twist, you could use this outside shell and also make it, you know, something that's deeply hidden in the forest and where a witch lives or a wizard or something like that. It really lends itself to that. But it also works in just a European style village. Heading on to the inside, we have our entryway. As I mentioned, this is all grey stone walls and stone floors. It's a very cold space. That's why we have this war rock thing going on two of the walls. It also has statues and seems very regal. The kitchen is then the first really modern thing. It still has those stone walls though, and a very old school fireplace. The first downstairs living quarters are very festive and regal. We have these large buildings and it's pretty cool. It has a small bathroom downstairs, nothing major. And when we head upstairs, we go to the main living floor. This is where you would spend most of the time, realistically. The first room is the office, and the office is also where you access the little balcony. Then you have the main living room, which is in the tower, and a beautiful space. It has a fireplace and a television and music, everything you need. The upstairs bathroom is much bigger and it has a bathtub and is right next to the bedroom. The bedroom is quite big too. It has 2 balconies, with one being an original balcony looking out to the front of the building, and the other balcony actually formerly being a room of the castle, now made to be a terrace. The second terrace we enter via a hidden ladder on the side of the building, and there is basically only the telescope there. Downstairs we have winemaking, a nice little romantic garden, a beehive, our functional garden and a gardening patch. And you enter this garden via the wine room, I guess, the wine storage room, and that is right off the main entrance hall. And yeah, that concludes our little build. I hope you had fun. I certainly had fun building it. If you want to download it, it's in my gallery. My gallery name is linked in the description below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye!